Welkom bij een nieuwe aflevering van de Brain Balance podcast. Een exclusive interview met Mark Nepo. En hij is wereldbekend geworden, onder andere door zijn 25 boeken die hij heeft geschreven. Maar vooral werd hij bekend door een van zijn boeken waarmee hij bij Oprah terecht kwam, waardoor hij wereldberoemde faam kreeg. Hij is degene die deelt over spiritueel leven, over een pad naar heling, over het leven, over pijn, over verwonding, over ziek zijn en weer herstellen. Ik ben enorm door hem geïnspireerd en dit interview is dus ook online. Ik ga hem zo meteen interviewen hier vanuit het Brain Balance Instituut. Het interview is dus ook in het Engels en in een iets andere setting dan wat jij gewend bent van de Brain Balance podcast. Je zult dus ook beelden zien van onze Zoom-sessie. Ik wens je hartelijk welkom en superleuk dat je weer kijkt naar deze exclusive aflevering van Brain Balance, de podcast. Hi Mark.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And oh, it's so lovely to have you here in the Brain Balance podcast. We are already recording this interview, but it's for me, it's really an honor to meet you in this way. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
nice to meet you. And I love your books. I love your vision. I love your knowledge that you share into the world. And
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
because you are one of the most loved spiritual writers and teachers of our time.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's very important also for the brain balance community, for all the conscious people over here in the Netherlands, that you spent more than 5 decades exploring what it means to live with an open heart, through illness, loss, love, and a deeper inner listening. And you write more than 25 books about conscious living, about yeah, health, about everything in life. So it's quite big what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I I'm blessed to be prolific, but it's not because I'm trying to produce a lot. It's because I writing has become listening and taking notes. And over the years, I've discovered that the creative process and the introspective process are really the same thing. I
Mhm.
just happen to write it down because that's how I learn. But they're very much the same thing if we are open and authentic and honest. The word trust literally means follow the heart.
Mm.
But when we follow the heart, we're rewarded with insight and learning.
Yeah.
So many of the things that I write, especially my poems, I don't know where they're going, but if I'm true to whatever is stirring, then something comes that becomes my teacher, and then I have to be with it, which is very much the way we uh, are challenged to learn from living.
Yeah. Is that what you think the biggest challenge for a human being?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for us as human beings is twofold. One is to be as fully alive as possible. Uh, and the other is to choose love over fear.
Beautiful. And what does it mean for you to live like the full spectrum of life? What is it?
Well, I think it is, for me, and there are many, as we share here and talk for whoever is listening and watching, you know, what I share are examples, not instructions. So, I don't have answers, but we can explore these things together. So when I share things, I'm sure that, I invite others to find your own things that stir you as well. So for me, I think that we're always challenged to be as fully present as possible. Now, being human, we can't. I am committed to being wholehearted, but some days I wake up half-hearted. But I'm committed to returning to being wholehearted. So I think a big constant practice for each of us is the practice of return. That is, I see and then I don't see. I'm clear and then I'm confused. I go to help you and then I trip. You know, I am brave and then I'm afraid. So we're challenged. I'm closed and then I'm open and then I'm closed. So what are the practices for each of us, personalized from everywhere, that help us return when we fall off? Because falling off is not because we're deficient or that we're always failing, but that we're human.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of being human is, oh, course correcting, course correcting. So a big part, I think for me, being fully here is holding nothing back, giving my all. And when I trip and can't do that or don't do that, the work of self-awareness is, oh, how can I return? And if I have trouble, then I have to say, call you up and say, I know better than this, but I'm stuck. Help. And this is, the work of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, True friendship is we help each other. One of the words that I love is the word honor, because the original meaning of the word honor is to keep what is true in view. I love that. So
Beautiful.
I honor you. If we're friends, I honor you by keeping what I know that's true in you in view when you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
It also invites us to befriend life, to keep what I know about life in view, to keep what I know about nature in view, what I know about truth in view. So I love this practice of honoring. How
Beautiful.
can we keep what is true in view?
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And at the same moment, I try to practice it right away. Like I'm honoring our interview. I honor this space, my office. And it feels like an intense open heart, more soft and more in the now, right here, right now. So it feels like you put different layers on top of each other just by the sentence. I honor this interview, I honor this space, happens really a lot in my internal processes.
Yeah. And so I think that, so what it means to be fully here is to constantly work with the messy, sacred journey of being human, being a spirit in a body in time on earth.
Yeah,
The being is infinite, but the human is very finite. And so we are constantly challenged to work with that. We're
hmm,
constantly challenged to uh, keep learning, keep growing. Um, and when we fall down, to get up. And when I inadvertently hurt you, to say I'm sorry. And not just to say I'm sorry, but to say, let's look at how that happened so it doesn't happen again.
exactly. Yeah, to come back to yourself. And I think that's quite interesting what you pronounced in the beginning of the interview, to practice when you go away of yourself to go back. So because it happens like a million times a day, that you lose yourself, go back. So all the emotions, and to practice only this, it feels quite small, but it's huge to practice go back and lose yourself and back. And is that how you call consciousness, or is it the self?
Well, I think it is and let's back up and we'll talk about the self for a minute. But I think that it is the work of self-awareness
Yeah.
to notice when we fall off, when oh, I was open, now I'm closed. Oh, I was holding this space and now I'm afraid. Oh, and because then when we can see that, we have more choices. And then the work of self-awareness is then how do we keep uh, track of, oh yeah, this happened last week. I recognize this. Yeah, I have tools to help me so that every time we fall off, we're not reinventing the wheel. But let's back up and talk about the self for a minute. So, and there's lots of different traditions of different ways of holding the self, or there's no self, or there's too much self. So for me, and this is part of being human, is that the portion of spirit we are blessed to carry while we're here has to be carried in a body, in a soul, in a mind, in a heart. And the vessel that carries our spirit while we're here is the self. So even if I'm an Olympic swimmer, if I try to swim to you across the Atlantic, I'm not going to get very far. Um, so you need a vessel to carry the spirit that is you across the ocean of life. Now, it can be a rowboat, it can be a yacht, it can have glass bottom, it can be a sailboat, a powerboat. The most important thing is you have to have a self to carry your spirit through life. So, what we run into problems is when we are not in touch with the spirit that we're carrying, and then we put all of our identity into the boat.
Hmm.
Now I got to have a big boat. I got to have a boat bigger than yours.
Hmm.
Yeah, and now I got to have more things on the boat. So the purpose of a self is to carry the spirit through life. Now let's talk about ego for a minute, because there's so much about ego.
Yeah.
And so ego is necessary like the boat. Ego is like the steering wheel of the boat. You have to have a steering wheel. We run into problems when if we don't have a relationship with our spirit and the boat's the only thing how we define ourselves, and we run into problems when we ask the steering wheel to do more than its job description. Like
Yeah.
you don't ask a steering wheel where we're going. You direct it where we're going.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if I don't have in touch with myself and I turn to my ego and say, where should we go? I thought you'd never ask.
You're lost. Yes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So a lot of our problems psychologically come from turning to the ego beyond what it's intended to
Mm.
do. So all of this, let's, as we talk about this, so we have to have a self and we have to have a steering wheel, but all of it is dependent on our relationship with our inner life and our spirit.
Yeah.
And so for the all the traditions have different names for that, whether it's the Holy Ghost or Dharma or Atman or Yahweh or Allah or Christ light or nature or physics or everything or nothing. There's a million names.
Mm.
But I love in the Hindu tradition the Namaste, which means I honor, I keep in view and salute the portion of universal spirit that resides in you. And what that says is that you and I, everything, the plant behind you, the poster on the wall, my coffee cup, my dog, everything carries a portion of universal spirit. The spirit is eternal, immortal.
Mhm.
The form that carries it eventually will pass, will die. But while we're here, I honor the portion of universal spirit that you are blessed to carry while you're here. So the question becomes, by inhabiting my true self, can I be a good steward of the portion of universal spirit I am blessed to carry while I'm here?
Mm. Wow, beautiful. I love this. Yeah. And you mentioned about the vehicle, about the vessel. What's happening when the vessel will die, when this part of the journey ends?
Well, of course, nobody knows, so we're all guessing. But I'm drawn also to the Hindu, first off, let me say, I was raised Jewish. I have a great tie to the Jewish heritage. But, early, I'm 75, but in my 30s, as you know from my work, I almost died from a rare form of lymphoma. And I was gifted and challenged because I got help and support from people from all traditions, formal and informal. So blessed to still be here, I became a student of all paths. And that has been at the center of all my books, all my teaching, all my work. Um, I was challenged to believe in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not wise enough to know what worked and what didn't. Still not. So we don't know what happens. But what I love about the Hindu worldview is there is the belief that when the form erodes, passes, those of us who are living forms dies, then that portion of spirit that lives forever joins the oneness again. So, we in the West we make a cartoon of the notion of reincarnation. I mean, it's always funny, right, that people say, that they were always great people in the past. No one was a stone at the mouth of the river, right? No one, no one was the moss growing under the garbage can. Um, so, but I think that like in nature, that opens up the possibility that it's not just one to one. It doesn't mean I would come back as another person. Maybe when I disperse, part of me becomes the nail that holds the barn together. Maybe part of me becomes a root of a willow tree.
Mm.
Maybe my love of life disperses, you know, to several people unborn. Maybe it's all of it. So the notion of reincarnation is really in the West, we imagine it from our point of view. Well, can I come back as something?
Yeah.
But in the overview of all of life, it's the receding of spirit in infinite ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be anything or everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
My son is almost 10 years old, and he says it on like a daily base, like, Mom, and he's watching the sky. When we die and we come back, we will be an eagle. And you will be my
yeah.
mom and I will be your son again. So it's beautiful how childish the mind and the feeling about coming back, whatever or however, is in an explanation of an animal or yeah.
Well, and so I think
Oh.
that, we in our deepest heart knowing, as we develop the instrument that is our heart, we touch into that when we have these moments where we connect with an eagle or we connect with something, we don't have to name the portion of spirit that's in that eagle, but we connect with things and they connect over time.
Mhm.
So I'll give you a touching example from my life. My father, who's gone now 13 to 15 years, I think, almost 13 or 15 years. And he lived to be 93. And when I was with him toward the end and he was in the hospital and he had a stroke and he could speak, but it was so difficult. He just chose not to. But I didn't live nearby, but I would go and visit when I could. And when I was there, we didn't have a private room. There were other people. So there's noise everywhere and clanking and TVs and blaring and nurses coming. And there I was, as other people have been. I'm feeding my 93-year-old father applesauce with a spoon. And all of a sudden, and this is a good example of showing up, holding nothing back, not as a conscious practice, but because my love for my father called me into it unexpectedly in a moment. And there I was, and everything of life was in me putting that spoon in his mouth, and it became a sudden bittersweet dance. I didn't want it to hit his teeth, and he was reaching for it, and I'm tearing, and the music's blaring, and someone drops a tray, and and the most surprising thing, I tripped into a moment of wonder.
Mm.
And this is the connection, a moment that taught me to explore further how our authenticity and holding nothing back not only gave me that moment with my father, but I tripped into the moment of every adult child who ever fed a dying parent. I wasn't alone. And it's caused me to explore and wonder if resilience isn't just you or me, you know, being strong in the face of adversity, but if resilience isn't the reward of holding nothing back so that if I'm with you and you're in pain and I'm there with you as a friend, then you and I trip into the moment of everyone who ever sat with a friend in pain.
Mm. Mm.
And the same thing with joy. And that resilience is that through being completely who we are, we join the mysterious stream of everyone who ever lived.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting when you say to be who you truly are. How can we make the journey, because it's a non-stop journey, exploration of yourself, an adventure. Um, how did you explore yourself, the true self?
Well, I think that, I think so let me back up and say everyone will be given the chance to be dropped into the depth of life. Now, often it's a life-threatening or a challenging thing or a difficult thing that does that, but it doesn't have to be. It's not to deify suffering. It could be wonder or surprise or beauty. It could be being loved unconditionally for the first time, So it's not just difficulty. For me, in my 30s, it was almost dying from cancer. So I talk about that catalyst, but it doesn't mean you have to suffer to be your true self. It means you have to be, great love and great suffering are the eternal teachers, and they will break us of our self-reference. So, my journey with cancer, would I be who I am today without it? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly, through no wisdom of my own, I was broken open and brought closer to life. And so the ways that I had been uh, socialized and trained to react to life didn't work anymore. And I think what happens when we are broken open through love or suffering is we become like Adam or Eve again. We wonderfully go, oh my God, I'm here. What does this mean? What does it mean to be here? How do I, so how do we act, respond, inquire into life with the freshness of how rare it is to be here? How rare it is. So, there's two things. There's a story by Buddha, where someone asked him, how rare is it to be born in human form? And he said, imagine a giant turtle at the bottom of the ocean. It wakes and it comes to the surface and it looks around, and then it goes back down to the bottom and it falls asleep again. And he said the odds of that turtle waking and breaking surface in the same exact spot is how rare it is to be born in human form. So when we and so living in the daily, we forget,
Mm-hmm.
and then we remember, and then we forget. This is our practice of return.
Yeah.
You know, we forget, and then when we remember, okay, well, oh my God, I'm here. And the second is a Zen little Zen story in 2 sentences that goes the why is it so why is the journey to freedom so long? Asked the troubled apprentice. And the master said, because it has to go through you. And when I was younger and I heard that, I thought, oh, that sounds like a critical teacher. But as I've lived longer, I don't think it was critical at all. I think it was a geographical response because the continent of the self is vast and it takes time to cross it.
Yeah.
It's a journey. So let me add one other saying to that from the Native American Lakota tribe. And I love this one. They say, the longest journey you will make in your life is from your head to your heart.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. And do you think or do you feel that you live every day of the moment from your true self?
I I try to, I'm committed to, and being human, sometimes I don't, or I fall off,
Mm-hmm.
or I trip into fear or confusion, but I'm committed to it. Just because I can't live it out every day doesn't mean I stop believing in it or aspire to it.
Yeah.
So, I think that the little things for instance, in very practical ways, ever since I went through my cancer journey, which is almost 40 years ago, um, I start every day. I don't have it with me right now, but I'm a list maker and make a list of, the things that have to be done today, the things I want to do. But because I try to remember how rare it is to be here, I have a cup of coffee right here, and at my desk. And then I ask myself, this is a small practice, if today is the last day I'm here, what stays on the list? What do I put on the list that I didn't? And maybe it's to call you up to say, I love you, even though I did it yesterday. And so you might say, well, why make the list? Well, because I live in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so the process of making the list and taking the list apart is a way to remember how rare it is to be here. I also, and I think I invite anyone who's listening to create your own, but I have 3 simple practices I try to do almost every day when I start. And they can be very simple. This is very simple. So when I wake, I get up first. My wife, Susan, is a night person. She gets up a little later. So the first thing I do as a ritual is I open the blinds and let light in. Then I take care of something living, our dog. And then I do something for someone I love, my wife. I make coffee for her so that when she wakes up, there's coffee. Now, that doing that with presence changes how the whole day unfolds. Now, some days, and this is what I mean about do I live every moment for my true self? Well, I try to. So some days I'm late or there's too much on my mind. And now I go, oh, I got to open the goddamn blinds. And I forgot to make the coffee. But the work of return and self-awareness is even while that's happening, I can stop and say, take a breath and start over.
Yeah.
Nothing is that urgent or that late that I can't. And so this brings up the difference between habit and ritual.
Exactly. Exactly.
Habit is when we're not present.
Yeah.
Ritual is when we're present. So this led me, so my next book that's coming out in May is on the sacred origin of words, because I've explored this my whole life, and that now there's enough to put what I've learned in a book. But so the word for ritual in Sanskrit is arta, RTA, and it means the hidden order of the universe.
Mm.
So when we're present in ritual, we reveal and remember the hidden order of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes the chores less chores. It makes the difficult more bearable. And being human, this is again the practice of return. Some days I rush through it.
Yeah.
It became a habit.
Back. Yeah. So being aware of also slowing down, take it easy, and be aware of how you handle the small, tiny things like taking your tea or coffee. And how do you drink your tea? Is it in a rush or is it with patience and slow down and with attention and honor? That's a beautiful ritual because sometimes people think about a ritual, you need to do the wooshy wooshy stuff, like how they call it. In the Netherlands, they call it like it's spiriwiri, like the spiritual things. And oh, you need to have a crystal or with the full moon. But I like it the way how you describe it, like a ritual is a small thing, what you do every day with awareness and with love and an open heart and to honor it. And that's beautiful. And it's actually it's so easy to do it every day, but then the mind kicks in and the mind will bring you in the rush and the rat race of life and all the thoughts we have. So you forget the small little things in life.
Well, I think it for me, it's because the details of life, when inhabited and related to, are the seams of the universe. Through those details, we feel the whole of everything.
Yeah.
And and this also applies to relationships, so um, to remember who, my wife Susan, who's a potter, and to remember who we are to each other. Every long-term relationship, you're in routines, you're in things, but then to stop, like with opening the blinds and say, who are you now? I know you so well, but who are you now? Who do you still feel about things the way you always have shared, or has something evolved or changed, or how do you see things? I think a great question to ask of really anyone, but especially friends and children is, what's it like to be you?
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. I,
What's it like to be you?
yeah.
Because that invites us to enter and share our story.
Yeah. Wow, that's a beautiful question. And tonight, with my dinner with my son, I will ask this question because I like to practice it, and that's what I do on a daily basis with Sky. How do you feel right now? Where do you feel it in your body? Do you have an open heart? How's your mind? What's your intention for the day? And not only by the mind, but by heart. Where do you feel your intention? And this is a kind of same question to go inwards and not outwards. Yeah.
Well, and I think that, uh, our inwardness, we we are an inlet between inner and outer. So, we do live in the world, but I think what I've learned is I want, when possible, I want to live out here, but from in here. Because, the things of the world pull us, it's a form of gravity, out. But no, this is why if we're rooted, and this is another way to look at the self. So imagine, here I'm in my home and we have trees around us, big oak tree out my window. Well, that oak tree has roots and it's in soil, it's in the earth that's everywhere.
Mhm.
Well, the tree is like the self. If it doesn't have roots, and if those roots don't get nutrients from the soil, it'll topple. So the self, again, there's another way to look at the self as the vessel. The self is like the tree. Our soul is like the roots. And the roots, the portion of universal spirit, we call it soul in the West, right? Of that we are, that is their healthy roots. They don't exist by themselves. They have to draw from the soil of spirit. So again, there are endless ways to do that, but that's what spiritual practice is about. You can name the self, the roots, the soil, any names you want.
Mhm.
Okay. But the real learning is to compare notes on what's your relationship with your roots and where do they get their nourishment.
Mm. Yeah.
It- and then again, it could be from meditating, it could be from writing, it could be from gardening, it could be from I had a friend where we're not close anymore. We live in different parts of the world, and but he is a devout atheist, but he loves jazz. In fact, he was a DJ for a radio station for years. His knowledge, he's like a jazz scholar. And when he lived close, we used to get together once a month, and he would prepare from his vast library different jazz things that he'd like me to hear. And I would love doing this with him. And I didn't hear half of what he heard. Hey, listen to that. Oh, you hear that? But what I loved so much was as he would share these things, he would be tears of joy. And so I thought, okay, that's his name for God. That's his root system. And music is the soil that he's nourishing himself with. Fine if he doesn't want to call it God. What's the difference?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
So
it
this
comes
this
it comes also with when you are truly hearted, so when you are truly touched with the emotions and your passion, then you are close by the connection with your true self.
Yes, and this brings us to talk a little bit about our relationship to our gifts.
Hmm.
Because the way to discover our root system and the way to access the soil is through our gifts. Now, there was a female mystic from Germany, Mechthild, from the Middle Ages. She had this beautiful, beautiful image. She said, "A bird doesn't fall from the sky, a fish doesn't drown. Each creature must find their God-given element." Well, it's pretty clear for a fish and a bird,
Yeah.
but for human beings, we have so, like a prism, we have so many sides and gifts and ways to receive light. The first thing we have to do is discover the element that brings us alive and live there. And then we can discover our gift. And then we can make use of our gift. So, I might discover that I have a gift for helping things grow. Well, then how you make use of that, is that to help plants grow? Is that to help children grow? Is that to help wounded people grow? Is that to be a teacher? Is that to be a nurse, a doctor? So how does my gift of growing best work in the world? So, the way, again, just like the small rituals, we are challenged through our heart, through the use of our heart, to follow what is true so we can discover what brings us most alive, what is from the soil of spirit, what feeds us, and through what root system. For me, from an early age, it has always been through the life of expression, which then turned into speaking and writing
Yeah.
and listening.
Yeah.
And so, for my friend, it was through music,
Hmm.
through my wife, it's through pottery and gift giving. She's a great giver.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, what happened during our journey as a human being, like the last thousand years? What happened that we lost the true connection with our gifts, that we made our brain and mind so important in life that we forgot actually what we are?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and let's explore it a little bit. We can't answer it, but let me first also share that, and in my book, More Together Than Alone, which was about looking at community and connection throughout history, um, that we have always struggled with forgetting and remembering who we are. We have particular uh, stressors about that in the last 1,000 years, actually in the last 50 years, even more because of all the ways. And so, we are, when in balance, the mind and heart work together, but we are so out of balance in the modern world.
Yeah.
So if we go back to um, and this is this is one way of understanding how we've been thrown off course in humanity, is that we go back to the 1800s and the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial Revolution, by having factories and workplaces and division of labor, two very huge changes happened. So before that, work and and family happened mostly in the same place.
Mhm.
Farms, the farm was the center. Even when we had other, even if you were a cobbler, where you had a cobbler bench and store and you lived above it or you lived behind it, you
Yeah.
know. And even though we don't want to lose the ease of currency, but before currency, we bartered. That is, I gave you shoes and you gave me corn. And while that may have been cumbersome, we exchanged part of who we are. So all of these things start to tell us that it's not that we don't want to get rid of progress, but how do we compensate for these losses
Hmm.
in the modern world? So then what happened also was, if you were a farmer before the Industrial Revolution or you were a cobbler, you did everything from seed to harvest. You did everything from cutting the hide of an animal to sewing the leather to making the laces to making the shoe. But now you're in a factory, and for the sake of efficiency and profit, you say, no, you don't worry about that. You just make the laces. Well, what happens to us, we are no longer participating in the wholeness of life. So now we're not, we don't have a center. We're away from home and we're fragmented. Now we are being separated from our basic human nature. So in the 1840s, Karl Marx, who is, really is labeled, dictators created Marxism, not Marx.
Mhm.
But as a sociologist, he had this great insight about this. He said, if you have enough people that are separated from their basic human nature, he said, you will have an alien nation. And he coined the term alienation. In fact, he saw the first generation of therapists as alienists, people who would help restore people to their basic human nature. We could use that today. So now we fast forward to the modern era, the technological era, and now this is even heightened because now with social media and the internet and devices and augmented by the pandemic, now we're insulated from our direct contact with life. All the spiritual traditions, in one way or another, encourage us to restore our direct connection of life because when you do that, not only do you remember your true self, not only do you honor life, keep what is true in view, but you feel and discover, rediscover a reverence for life. And if you have a reverence for life, you can't do harm.
Yeah.
So I think it sounds simple, but it's difficult and clear. So much of our world, of our humanity today, is separated from life. So this leads to another distancing that we fall off of, and that'll bring us kind of full circle here with this. And that is what I would call screen mentality.
Hmm.
So when we see something on a screen, now we have a whole generation that thinks they've experienced it.
Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. When I was a kid, my father, who never traveled, but we subscribed to National Geographic because he loved to see the pictures from around the world. He'd never go there. Well, now you or I, we can go on YouTube and I can go over the shoulder of a video of someone climbing Mount Everest. Well, that's great because I'm never going to go to Mount Everest, but I didn't make the climb. And now with our divorcing from reality, from direct, it's fine as a learning, but not as a substitute for living.
Yeah.
And we have people say, "Oh, I did that." No, you didn't.
No,
You
no.
watched it.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a true experience.
No,
So it's,
no.
if we can bring it all together, it's all about disconnection with our humanity, actually, and the disconnection from the heart, the body, the feelings that we do have, because that's, I think that's also quite a big problem, that we are not used to feel the emotions, our feelings, because we are a little bit afraid of it, to feel emotions. And
Yes. And
brings us to the,
that has
yeah,
always been, and I think that our feelings are actually our paths to true knowledge. And, it's just like if we're afraid of feelings, it's like if you have a hose and it's bent, it's kinked, and then, when you finally open it, there's a lot of pressure. But if it's open and flowing, it trickles. So we have a lot of, the more we avoid our feelings, the more pressure there is when we first feel them.
yeah,
And this is why it's so important to be brave in feeling, it's because once we open that, they become our greatest teachers.
it is. And it's a long, long way. And I discovered it myself like for 10 years. So it's a short period when I compare it with your travel, your journey. But since a year of 4, 5, I can feel my emotions. And it's like when you deep dive into the ocean, and for the first time, you see the whole world from a different perspective.
One beautiful. Yes. Yes.
Wow, it's a giant world, and I have never seen it until now. It's like for 35 years, I haven't seen it, and now I see it, and then I can't unsee it anymore. So for me, that's really the personal growth, development, feeling, opening your heart, is that you see something, you feel something that you can never unseen again.
And that's the power of true awareness is once you see, you can't not see.
Yeah,
We can, when we're afraid, look away. We can, when we're afraid, even run from what we know, but we can't unsee it. And so, how do we, even when it's difficult, how do we trust that and say, what is it you want me to learn? Stay in conversation with our feelings, stay in conversation with that depth.
yeah. Is that is that one of the reasons that so many people are afraid of spirituality, to feel?
Um, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for others, of course, but I do see that often, and in myself too. This is how we expand and contract. How, like, we're in this wonderful conversation. I can get off the phone and take the garbage to the curb, trip, and then I'll have a rush of adrenaline and, oh, fear. What did I do? Did I hurt myself? And then again, it's how do we come back to that depth? So using the ocean metaphor that you wonderfully brought up, I think this is a beautiful way to understand we live in both at the same time, the depth and the surface. And that's the challenge. That is what a spiritual practice is, how to live in both. So take the first, we look at the waves and we say they're waves. Well, actually, it's all one water.
Yeah,
You can't say where does the wave stop and the depth begin. But the first foot, 2 feet, is always moved about and disturbed by weather. That's how, that's what I would call our psychology. That's the part of us that meets the world every day. You're not going to be exempt from the wind stirring you, this happening, this you go. But if we can also not hide from the depth, the surface, but if we can also go down,
mm,
now we're grounded in the depth of all being, the ocean of being.
yeah,
And if we only stay in that top layer, we bounce around.
yeah,
But it it makes it a little, it takes the edge off it when we view it and feel it and hold it from the depth of our being. So when I'm drawn into the turbulence of the surface, I try to settle back down and then look again at the surface.
yeah.
And that's a practice. We're never going to not feel the disturbance of the surface. But how do we settle and now where are we?
Yeah. And do you call it growing inward, like how you pronounce it in your beautiful book, The Fifth Season? Thank you for writing this beautiful
Oh,
book.
oh,
It's
you're
about,
welcome.
yeah, I love it. It's about aging, light, and growing inward. And I think the ocean and the waves and everything, it's all about growing inward, because how deeper you go, how bigger your growth inward will be.
And I also am realizing that the more centered we are in that depth of the inner life, the more open we are on the surface, the
Yeah.
less fear governs us. The less centered I am in that depth, the more afraid I am and the less open I am to views other than my own.
And now I can imagine that people who are listening to this podcast or looking to the interview, A question coming up in my mind is, okay, how do I center myself? What is it? How can I work with it? How can I, yeah, do it?
So I think things for me that help center me, again, very simple things. One is to slow down to the pace of what is real. To slow down. Unless you or I can't breathe or are bleeding, nothing is urgent.
Mm.
Things can be significant, but they're not urgent. So how do I slow down when I'm speeding up? How do I open when I close? How do I try whatever's going on? If I'm disturbed, if I'm upset, if I'm confused, if I'm struggling, I try to stop and give my full heart's attention to the nearest piece of life, even if it's a fly on the window, until it becomes my teacher.
Mm.
And the other thing that I discovered, which is very simple but true, is we can only go so far with our mind. So I'm trying to problem solve. And this I learned this in a moment. I was struggling. I can't remember with what now, but I was struggling with something, a conflict, a decision that I needed to make, trying to problem solve something. And I just couldn't figure it out. And then at that moment, a friend called and needed me. So I dropped everything. I went to help them. And when I came back, I could think more clearly and my mind was clear. So when we go as far as our mind can take us, give,
Yeah,
give,
that's beautiful.
and it
And
will clear our mind.
yeah, exactly. There is, and I will take my notes. There's a beautiful image in your work, the meteor that burns bright red.
Oh,
And
yes.
it feels really like it's this kind of topic. What parts of you had to fall away for more light to come true?
Yeah, so let me quickly just say the meteor for folks who haven't read the book yet. And this gave me a way into the book on the second half of life is that, meteors we know come into the atmosphere. Very few make it to Earth because they burn up in the atmosphere. So as they enter the atmosphere, they actually flake off, and the more part of them that flake off, the brighter they get till all that's left is light. And I felt that this was a teacher to me about this speaks to the journey of a spirit in a body in over a lifetime, that over a lifetime, our body flakes off and there's nothing left but light. So thank you for asking the question. So, I think that through my journey through life, which is, different causes, but, my want to, being taught to be special flaked off, being taught to seek greatness flaked off in favor of celebrating the greatness of life.
Mhm.
You know, the effort to be excellent flaked off in favor of immersing myself completely, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I think the want out of need to be loved flaked off so I could just be loving.
Yeah.
And I think, about a year and a half ago, my latest flaking off was I went through major back surgery, and I'm pain free. I'm well. I'm better than I've been in 20 years, and so grateful. Um, but that was a flaking off, and I'm brighter for it.
Hmm.
And I am centered. I do move when I can slowly, at the pace of what is real. But I was really forced to really go slow. Like I couldn't, for months, I couldn't put my socks on. I couldn't shower by myself. I couldn't, and then the worry is this the way it's going to be? Will I be able to come out of this? So during that time, I couldn't. lift the coffee pot and the mug at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So slow down in the
Well,
next
so
level. Like,
so
yeah.
so now that I'm well, I kind of liked holding lifting them one at a time. So
Yeah.
now part of the flaking off is I didn't need to do them at the same time ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Be
beautiful.
where you are.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And then you write in the book that aging asks for a new kind of horizon, one that opens in all directions. How does life feel different when we stop chasing what's ahead?
Yeah. So I think one of the things, and again, these heightened experiences, while I've written this book about the second half of life, what I've learned really applies at any stage of life. You know, they open up practices, and so this really taught me what I'm learning. Like I said, last month I turned 75. I'm well. I'm shooting for 100. Who
Yes.
knows, right? But even so, there are more years behind than ahead. So that doesn't mean I stop dreaming. That doesn't mean I live in the past. So being fully present has opened up at this point in my life, has opened me to what I think are more foundational ways of relating to the past and the future. So the real purpose of memory is to be more alive now. So I can look back to a time 20 years ago that was very special, wonderful, amazing. Now, nostalgia is I look back and say, I wish I could be there
Mm,
again.
mm.
But what I'm learning is the true purpose of memory is can I touch into what was alive in me then, because it's still alive in me now, and see where it is in me now?
Wow,
That's
that's
a
beautiful.
that's a touchstone to see, okay, it's still in me. Where do I find it now? And the same thing with dream. When we dream, we often put our potential or best selves ahead of us to live into. But I'm finding the true purpose of dream is to put that out where I can see it, but just like memory. So, what is it about that wants to come alive in me, and where does it live in me now?
Yeah.
So, the true purpose of memory and dream is to help us be more alive now.
Now. Yeah, and sometimes you well, sometimes I see or write something about the dreams that you do have. It's not a dream because it's already alive in your body, in your cells, in your mind.
Yeah, and
Or
so I think the soul wants us to be as alive as possible and doesn't really care how we do that. So dreams are we tend to have a dream and then we fix it.
yeah,
Like it's something we have, and if we don't reach it, then we're a failure. Well, dreams are guesses at how our gifts can come alive. And so, like you throw wood on a fire. Well, I think the soul wants us to throw care on the fire of our aliveness. Doesn't
yeah,
care what it is, with what kind of. So, and the thing about it is that if we give our all to our dreams, we know a lot of dreams don't come true or they come true in ways we didn't imagine. But we do that because when we give our all, sometimes we come true, and that's more important.
mm, yeah, that's beautiful. So actually, what you were saying was that the fifth season of life is not depending on age, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not when you are 40 or 50 or older. It's also when you are like in your 20s or earlier. It doesn't matter.
Well, when I was doing the, yeah, yeah, exactly. When I was doing the audio book for this, I had a young uh, sound engineer, producer with me on Zoom with me, and she was 30. She is 30. And halfway through, it took a week to record it. And halfway through, I asked her, I said, well, how is this all sitting with you? And she wisely said, well, you know, there's a lot here for me because you're always aging, whether it's from 20 to 40 or 40 to 60 or 60 to 80. And so I think it's more about the times when the fifth season is when we can push aside all that is in the way and integrate what matters and touch into what matters, to what is real and vulnerable and true, and live from there.
Yeah, beautiful. So, what would you most like to say to someone who is just entering their own fifth season?
Oh, I would want to say, trust your heart. Trust your heart. It's our strongest muscle and our greatest teacher. And it is the living thing that is always connecting inner and outer.
Wow, that's pure.
Yes,
Yeah, and it's all about the connection with your heart, the body, the soul, your environment, the people around you. Is that also the connection that we make with our friendships or relationships?
absolutely. One of the great paradoxes of life is that no one can live your life but you, but no one can do it alone.
It's beautiful. No one can do it alone. So we need to have the co-regulation or the wisdom, the experiences from people around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. Well, I made so many notes, but I see the time and it's already like almost 70 minutes. It's wow, it's passing away. Uh,
Oh,
but I really, really love to listen to you and your wisdom, your experiences, the human being you are, the soul you are. And I really want to thank you and warm thank you that you share all your knowledge today with us. And your work keeps reminding us that we are not alone in our searching, not alone in our pain, not alone in our joy, and that love is not something we have to earn. It is something we learn to let it into our heart. And that friendship is a sacred space where we hold, reflect, and sometimes even save one for another. Thank you so much for walking in with so many beautiful lessons for us here in the Netherlands, for the Brain Balance community. And I would recommend your books, all your books, but especially fifth season, because I think it's a connection for everything we can work
well,
on.
I should share with you that I will be leading a week-long retreat on the fifth season in April of 2027 in Milan, outside of
Oh,
Milan, in a castle in Milan. And you can actually, my publicist Eileen can probably give you a link for that for
that's
folks who,
nice. Oh, I
yeah,
love it. I love it too. So maybe we
yeah,
can
it's
we can meet in person.
oh, that would be
Yeah, that would
wonderful.
be great.
So
Yeah.
it's April 18th through 25th in a castle outside of Milan.
Oh,
That
amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. We will share the link below the YouTube video over here and also
oh great.
account and the book and everything. But I love your work. So thank you. Thank you very much that you wanted to share your knowledge again.
Oh,
And
you're so welcome. It's
yeah,
joy to meet you.
yes, same, likewise. Thank you. Have a wonderful day over there and speak to you maybe later on in life. Thank
Oh,
you.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye, Mark. Bye bye.